Join us September 25th, 26th, and 27th for a 3-day special streaming event, Strange Realities, to push the limits of your reality. Featuring authors, academics, researchers, occultists, experiencers, podcasters, and practitioners. All presenting fresh cutting-edge material and research.
Streaming live.
Featuring presentations by
Brent Rains,
editor of Alternate Perceptions magazine.
Aaron Goulias,
Host of the Saucer Life podcast.
David Metcalf,
Writer and researcher.
Alan Greenfield,
Author of Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts.
Stephanie Quick,
Writer and blogger.
Red Pill Junkie,
14 researcher and explorer.
Tim Banal,
Host of Banal of America.
Guy Malone,
Iconoclast and troublemaker.
Timothy Renner,
Host of Strange Familiars.
Kiki Dombrowski,
Author and practitioner.
Greg Bishop,
Author of Project Beta.
Jenny Ashford,
Host of 13 O'Clock.
Recluse,
Host of The Farm.
Jack Montgomery,
Folk Magic.
Joshua Cutchin,
Author of Thieves in the Night.
Reverend Michael Carter,
Alien Contact Experiencer.
Dr. Future,
Host of Future Quake.
Tony Kale,
Author of Memphis Hoodoo.
Rin Collier,
Occultist.
Seriah Azkath,
Host of Where Did the Road Go? And John Tenney, Ghost Stalkers in Hell.
all 3 days, only $20. Tickets and info available at strangerealitiesconference.com. Brought to you by the Conspirinormal podcast. Conspirinormal.com. Strange Realities.
And here we are. We are live on the Conspirinormal Facebook page, and on the YouTube channel. So we are doing the second part of, well, this would be the second part when we actually put the podcast, but I guess technically this is the third part of the Strange Realities Conference preview show with all the speakers. And we have 3 more speakers with us. First of all, what's going on, Seriah?
What's up, man? Just excited. We're getting closer to the conference, and those tickets are rolling in, and people are really excited to get some great feedback. Just can't wait to all get together and have that experience.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we're really excited to have 3 people that are a part of the conference once more with us tonight. We've got Jenny Ashford.
Hi, everybody.
And Kiki Dombrowski.
Hi, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
for being a part of the conference.
And Maya is here, too.
Oh.
Or not. You'll see her jump up and down. She's very...
That's your familiar?
Well, it's funny. She's been with her dad up in Nashville, and finally she arrived in Savannah yesterday. So...
Cool.
Okay, cool.
I guess it's my familiar.
And we've got Stephanie Quick.
Hi.
Hey. Ooh. And Adam just disappeared. So.
Oh my goodness, where did he go?
I'm still here.
Okay.
The disembodied voice.
Oh, I know, that was like pretty weird. Back and forth.
He has ascended into the other realm.
The show must go on as it always does. So let's start. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about each and every one of you guys' presentations, what you're going to talk about, kind of just like a little brief synopsis. And Jenny, I guess we'll start with you. What are you going to talk about at the Strange Realities Conference?
Oh my goodness, the pressure. Well, apparently I'm going to be the sole true crime speaker at the conference. I'm very excited about that. I'm actually going to be talking about a very strange set of 2 murders that happened in St. Augustine, Florida, which is not that far from where I grew up. Very haunted city, oldest city in the United States, oldest continually occupied European settlement, if you want to be pedantic about it. But these were 2 murders that happened in the early 1970s, and they were both kind of middle-aged to older ladies. One of them was hacked to death with a machete on her front porch, and the other one was bashed to death with a concrete block. And both of the crimes are technically unsolved, although I'm pretty sure I know who did the first one, but no one's really sure who did the second one. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. And like I said, I wanted to do that because I wanted to do something true crime related, and I wanted to do something that I had written about in one of my books, and also something that was local to my area, because St. Augustine is very, very close to where I grew up, and I've been there many, many times. We went there many times when I was a child, and I went there a couple of years ago. And there's just something really cool about the place. And I didn't really find out about the murder until later, but so it's like just a pair of murders that I always found really fascinating and set in one of my favorite cities in the world. So I thought that would be a good thing to talk about.
Cool.
What did
the
you
person
say?
you think did it incarcerated?
No, he was actually brought to trial, but was acquitted. Spoiler alert.
Okay. Wow.
When were these crimes committed?
In 1974,
Wow.
both of them were. They were about 9 months apart. Wow. And it's weird because they seem related, but they actually might not be because they were very similar. But yeah, I always just find something very fascinating about them, especially because the first one that happened like just kind of in broad daylight, like on a busy street. You know what I mean?
Oof.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
And were there witnesses?
There was one witness, the neighbor.
Oh, great.
But it was kind of like he was sure he saw who it was, and then he wasn't sure he saw who it was. It was kind of one of those kind of situations. So there's a lot of really interesting details in this case about kind of like small town politics and all that kind of stuff, which I found really intriguing. So hopefully it will be interesting for everybody. You know, it's like as interesting as I found it.
Yeah, we can really use that dimension to the conference. I think people really enjoy that and give them something to help them sleep at night.
Yeah, that first night, guys, that we're going to be doing this conference is going to be interesting because for like something that is really like we're billing it as a paranormal conference, but that Friday night, those first 4 presentations, there's not going to be really anything paranormal about them.
Oh.
Well, it happens. I mean, when we first started our show, we started it kind of as a paranormal show.
Yeah.
But as time went on, we started branching out into other, and now we just do whatever. We do paranormal, we do weird history, we do a lot of true crime, we do pretty much anything that interests us and that we think is strange or that we think other people will find interesting. So we just kind of stopped worrying about that distinction a long time ago.
Just for everybody that may not be familiar with your podcast, what is it called? What's it what's the format of it? What's a podcast? But really, it's a YouTube channel, really.
Yeah, I mean, we do an audio component of it as well that I usually put up on YouTube, on iTunes and various other podcast kind of platforms. But it's mainly a YouTube show, especially since we started having the video component. Because when we first started, we only had audio, and then I would make like a slideshow to go along with it, which was really dumb and labor intensive. And I don't know why it took so long for us to get video. But we recently started live streaming like all the main episodes, which has been really fun, actually. I didn't think I would like it because I usually get nervous like in a live setting, but it actually turned out being pretty fun. Our show is called 13 O'Clock, and we do, like I said, we started out doing paranormal stuff, but now we do pretty much everything. We do ghost stories, we do a lot of true crime, we do several shows a week, we do old movie reviews, we do new movie reviews. I just started a series doing book reviews. So we kind of cover if it's weird or spooky or horror related or anything like that, then we'll talk about it. And we pretty much put something up every day, which we didn't used to do. We used to just have one show, but now we have, we live stream 5 days a week. And we have like various other recorded things that we put up like on the days that we don't live stream. So it's kind of become a full-time concern at this point.
Well, there's cool. I'm a big fan of your show.
Yeah,
like,
you guys have had us on like a lot of times.
yeah, we have. In fact, Jenny is all like you guys a couple of times have saved our asses because there's been a couple of times where like a guest has like said, "Oh, I can't come on tomorrow," or "I can't come on today," and I'm like, Jenny, Tom, can you guys come on?
Can you guys come on and just talk about a bunch of, I don't know.
Yeah, well, you guys kind of have an interesting dynamic on your show. Can you talk a little bit about like you and Tom's like kind of dynamic between each other? Yeah,
this seems to be the thing. It's very funny to me because this seems to be the thing that a lot of people really respond to about the show, and I'm not sure I don't know. I'm not sure why, I guess, because I've known him for such a long time. So it's like something that I'm used to. But the fact that our personalities are so different, and like we said this on one of our shows a long time ago, because this is kind of our dynamic. I was like, he's kind of like Captain Kirk, but maybe like a little bit the mirror, like the little bit evil episode. You know what I mean? He's a little bit like that, and I'm like good universe Spock. So the way that we like kind of play off of each other, I guess, is kind of like, I mean, we're almost, I don't want to say we're almost completely opposite, but in a lot of ways we're kind of opposite. So we don't argue and stuff on the show. Like, we actually agree on more things than people would think. But I guess the way we kind of interact with one another, the way we kind of like mess around with each other and, you know, take the piss out of one another is like, I guess like people are into that, which we thought was very funny. I mean, that was one of the reasons that someone suggested to us that we should do a show. It's like, you guys are just like so funny the way you're always like, you know, quibbling with one another and like kind of adding to, you know, into like arguing and stuff. Not really arguing, but so we were like, okay, why not? He loves to talk. And so we started it. And apparently some people, like, people really dig it. So, and like I said, since we started doing the live streams, I feel like people have been really responding to that because, you know, we do the live streams like for the main show, like on Saturday nights. We both like, you know, get a big old cocktail and we just sit there and we talk about the topic. And a lot of times we just go off on these like crazy tangents. Like the shows will be like 4 hours long. And it's like, we have like a hardcore of people that like turn up and they're drinking with us and like asking us questions.
It's interactive. It's very, it's
it is
an interactive drinking show. What Tom typifies it as like the old time 1970s talk shows where you like everybody drinks martinis.
Yeah. It's and that's kind of what we wanted. We kind of wanted, I mean, we didn't initially start out drinking on the show because I was like, man, I'll lose my place in the notes. I don't know, you know, I'm going to mess it up. But as time went on and we kind of like loosened up the format of the show, in a way, I think it's gotten a lot better, even though maybe if you're, you know, looking for a show on like, you know, the last show we did on Howard Hughes or whatever, if you're looking for a show on Howard Hughes, it might not be the best place to go. I think I got most of the facts in there, but you know, there's going to be like a whole bunch of other tangents and people might get bored that we go off on for 30 minutes talking about Little Debbie's or something like that. Like we get off on some. So, you know, but if people don't have patience for that, it's really not the show for them.
You need to let Tom know that right now I am only about 2 or 3 miles away from where Little Debbie's are made. So just let him know. Yeah, if you stand outside where I live now, you can smell the Little Debbie.
Nice. I'm gonna have to tell him that. He came home from Sam's the other day, and it's like we're just constantly in a struggle. Like we're always trying to like lose weight, and we're always trying to diet and stuff. He came home from Sam's the other day with 3 big, huge boxes of 3 different kinds of Little Debbie's. He got like the peanut butter, like wafery things. He got like oatmeal cream pies. He got like coffee cake things. I was like, why do you do this? Just why? He's like, I don't know. I saw them and they look good. I was like,
he is so funny about food too. And what I love about your guys' show, because I'm a big fan too, is you never know where anything is going to end up from Tom's angle, because he's had this like really wild, vast life experience. And I remember one time, I can't remember what you guys were talking about, but he starts talking about some guy that he knew who was like an old Navy guy or something, talking about how like in the 30s or something, or the 40s, you had this really good high quality motor oil. And so he, you know what it is. So he would deep fry a chicken in this motor oil, and he claims it was like the most succulent, most gorgeous.
And he's like, well, it didn't have all the like, you know, additives in it then, so it was like much better, and like all this other kind of stuff. And it's funny because like we'll end up on this topic like 45 minutes later, and then I'll look like, how did we even end up talking about this? I don't even remember like where it went off the rails, but oh well.
It's fun though. It's always a hoot because there's always, because I mean I love true crime, but you've been around a while, you kind of know where things are going to go. It's not so surprising. I think that's what's kind of comforting about it in a strange way, that you kind of know how a lot of these cases are going to end up usually a certain way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with you and Tom is that you really never know exactly where things are going to end up, which makes it a lot of fun. So
Yeah, and we don't know. I think that's kind of what makes it entertaining too, because it's like, yeah, I have an outline and I have notes and stuff like that, but when he gets into the mix and gets a few drinks into him, I don't have any idea. Like,
it's a wild card.
I don't know what, like, I'm going to say something and it's going to set him off like on this path, and I'm just like I'm just going to be like, there it goes. There goes the thread of the show. It's wandering away over there.
Yeah.
Do you have anything exciting planned for Halloween? Like doing any Halloween themed things?
I'm not sure. Like, we just recently started, because we used to always do like a big like special episode for Halloween. We would usually do reader stories, like they would send in ghost stories or fiction stories, and people really seem to like that. But recently we started doing, because I wanted to give something extra to the people on our Patreon, so I started doing like polls of what movies they wanted to see for the upcoming week, what topics they wanted to see. So I'm not really sure, like, I mean, I'm sure we'll do something special, but I'm not really sure what. I mean, I might have to like figure out what to put in the polls so people can like vote on what they want us to do for the Halloween show. Cause I'm like running out of ideas. We always try to do, like, Valentine's Day is easy because we always do killer couples and we never like run out of those. So we usually do like a variety show with like 3 or 4 different like serial killer couples or whatever. And we've been doing that for like 3 years. We usually try to do a special Christmas show too, but that's always kind of hard to come up with some. We did like Krampus and Christmas creatures one year, and then I don't even remember what we did like the year after that. We did something kind of Christmas themed. But I mean, Halloween's easy because everything we do is spooky, so it's kind of like, but and now I feel bad because it used to be when we first started it, and it was an hour long, and I used to be like really annoyed, like, you know, because it was called 13 o'clock, you know, the hour of the weird and unexplained. So it was only supposed to be an hour. So I would get like really antsy if the show went over an hour. And now our shows are regularly 4 hours long. And so I feel like now, if we do like a special edition or something like that, now they're doing like 6 hours, because people will be like, what's special about that? Your regular show is already 3 or 4 hours long. So now you have to like just be there for like 6 hours, like talking to everybody. I don't know. I'll figure something out.
And it seems like for you guys, in the words of ministry, every day is Halloween.
It is. That's what it's like.
I like that.
That I don't love Halloween, because I do. It's my very favorite thing ever. But I mean, pretty much every day we're just working on spooky stuff. I'm reading horror. I'm writing about true crime. I'm doing something like creepy or creepy adjacent. So it really does seem like it is really like that. I mean, you know, but.
Well, I commend you guys for doing it like literally every single day, like just about. It's
yeah.
It's you put in a huge amount of time. It's paying off for you guys pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's been doing really well. I think Thursday and Friday are the only days we don't live stream now. But Thursdays, I started putting up, like, I started reading, like, some of my own short stories and, like, classic horror stories. I started putting those up on Thursday. And then we record, like, a movie review, and that goes up on Fridays. But every other day, we live stream. And we usually do new movie reviews. Like, we try to watch new stuff and put that up every day. And then we do the regular episode on Saturday nights, because we figure more people are, like, sitting around and can drink with us. So
well, you've really got this whole kind of community built up around you guys, and they probably feel like
amazing. Like, it's amazing how the same people like turn up, even when because I told Tom, I'm like, I think people are going to get sick of us like after a while, which is like every day I'm like, hey, here we are talking about another movie. Hi. But like the same people like regularly show up every single day, and we know, and they started sending us like presents, like in the mail. Like today, I got 2 Blu-rays, like the 1979 Dracula with Frank Langella, and I got Heat with Al Pacino. So I got 2 Blu-rays today, and somebody sent me, because I mentioned waffle fries on one of my show, and I said, oh man, I should really make some waffle fries. Somebody sent me like a vegetable cutter thing, like to make waffle. I opened it up and I just like laughed my ass off. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. But,
that is pretty cool, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
People sending you stuff. I mean, that's like a whole other level.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's usually movies, but like one of our fans, like who was like older than us, because we're a little bit older. He sent us a humongous box of like all these old Weird Tales magazines, like all these old like Tombs of the Blind Dead, like all those old like fucking sorry, but all those it's, I can't stop swearing. Sorry.
It's okay. It's not. It's
Okay.
We do it too.
Yeah.
Like all
the
that old
movies,
stuff.
all the movies in the coffin box. It's like he sent me like a little pop figure of Death from Sandman. It's like just this big, huge box of stuff. And I was just like, he's like, oh, I had this stuff and I was cleaning stuff out and I thought you guys would like it. So he just sent us this big, huge box. And I was just like, it's touching,
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I never thought that would happen, it's kind of cool.
Kiki, let's get to you. What are you going to be presenting at our Strange Realities conference?
Well, I tried to think of something where I could cross over in what I have studied extensively, which is like definitely divination and tarot, and something that might fit well into a paranormal conference. And so I am going to talk about prophecies, predictions, and cycles during our lifetime. Originally, my goal was literally to because my walls, I still don't even have art on my walls yet. That's how brand new I am in my place. I was going to put Post-its up and create a timeline of predictions. But as the more I read, people are not very accurate in their predictions. They don't say, you know what, in 2021, this is going to happen. In 2025, this is going to happen. So I'm kind of curious to see where the research takes me as I get closer and closer to the conference. But it's been kind of interesting to see how terrifying our futures are, according to the prophets. And I really hold no judgment against anybody. I don't think, there are certain people in particular that are better than others, but obviously there's a few people that I definitely want to talk about, Nostradamus being one of them. And then this other woman I learned about who's considered to be the Nostradamus of the Balkans, and her name is Baba Vanga. And she apparently was she predicted the passing of Joseph Stalin, Barack Obama's presidency, and some people also say that she also predicted COVID-19. So it'll be interesting.
Is she Bulgarian?
Yes, she's from Sofia, Bulgaria.
I think I've heard of her, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting woman. Lost her eyesight at a very, very young age. The legend says that she lost it in sort of this freak storm, and so just led this very spiritual life where she just gave people really incredible insights, to the point where she was so well known that governments tested her and studied her. And apparently they actually came up with a number where they said that her predictions were 80% accurate. So you could 80% of the time she's going to give you some really real advice and some
80% of the time, huh? Interesting. Yeah. How did she predict COVID-19? What was her what are they saying her prediction?
Well, apparently, and I say apparently because I think that that's something that's very interesting about the world of prophecies and predictions too, is that they're up to interpretation, and then also their sources are up to interpretation too. So a lot of times I think that when I talk about these predictions and these prophecies, I'm going to say allegedly, apparently, legend says, because
right.
It's really, unless you were right there when Baba Vanga said it, we can't say that this is exactly what happened. But apparently one of her clients in the 90s, so she passed away in 1996, but in the early 90s, or maybe even the late 80s, during the Golden Girls years, I'll say that.
That's the best way to date it. Whenever Blanche and Rose were around.
I'm obsessed with them. And actually, fun fact, there is an episode of the Golden Girls where Rose sees a UFO. So there is a little.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Sweet Rose. And St. Olaf. So Baba Vanga told her client, she said that in the year 2020, the year 2020 is going to be covered by Corona. And at the time, the customer or the client, I'll say the client didn't really understand what this meant. It was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you. So, and I think that's interesting too, because, I think that anybody that is psychic, they come up with some things that they'll give to a client, and the client's like, that doesn't resonate at all. I think that it happens. I think that maybe not all of us are gifted with an 80% accuracy, but it is interesting when you do have clients that say that doesn't resonate, and you go, okay, well, put it on the back burner. That's what this client for Baba Vanga did. And then here we are in 2020. And I think that will happen with plenty of psychics where they say, maybe that doesn't resonate with me right now. Well, I've personally had that happen where, I've given the wisdom from the cards, or maybe I've had a clairvoyant hit and I've shared it, and the customer's like, I don't know if that resonates, but then they'll contact me a couple months later and say, I didn't think it would happen, but it happened.
And Kiki, for the audience that are watching that are not familiar with you, like you do, just tell a little bit about yourself, like what you do and like your tarot readings and all that stuff.
Sure. So I am a tarot card reader. I've been reading tarot for a very long time. I started tarot when I was very young, about 13 years old-ish, 13, which would also be somewhere in the Golden Girls era.
Indeed, the Golden Girls era, they covered a great space of geological time.
They truly did. So I don't give away my age too much by sharing that. But tarot gave me the opportunity to really branch out into a lot of things that I love, which would include magic, witchcraft, the study of divination, just all divination, but also dipping into the world of the paranormal and the supernatural. And so I kind of, I carry all those things with me. I'm also a writer. I have 2 books that are getting republished next year through Which Way Publishing. And I write for Which Way Magazine. I kind of have a sort of blog. I'm not dedicated to it. I still have a day job, so it is exhausting. I give credit to anybody who, oh my God, Jenny, like, I can't believe you do, a podcast every single day. Like, if I write 200 words a day, I'm like, yes, nailed it.
I can totally relate.
And you've got a couple of books out as well.
Well, oh yeah. Well, the 2 books, yeah, because they're getting republished. So this is the cool thing, is that these 2 books that I did, 8 Extraordinary Days, which is about I call it the Witch's Wheel of the Year, which is really about the seasonal celebrations. And A Curious Future, which is sort of this really nifty divination handbook. Both are getting revised and getting expanded. So those are the two works that I love, and I'll be ready to release them after the 2nd edition.
Cool.
And move on to something else, probably tarot.
Yeah, excellent. Is there, what's about, so are you covering just pretty much like prophecies from like psychic prophecies? Or are you covering like any other kind of like prophecy in the talk?
That's a good question. One thing I really wanted to think about were cycles of time. Like the age of Aquarius, kind of talking about that. What does that mean to shift into the age of Aquarius? And then, I don't know, I was listening to a podcast. It was probably Mysterious Universe. I think it was Mysterious Universe, where they were talking about hunger stones appearing. And I wanted to talk about like cycles of weather cycles. What kind of cycles are being predicted coming up? And one of the things that kind of was interest to me are these hunger stones are appearing all over the world, where the water is decreasing to a level, and people in our history left these stones that were like, hey, if you can read this, you're going to be in a really bad situation with droughts coming up. So FYI, you may want to, get ready. So those are some of the things I'd like to touch upon as well.
Cool.
Yeah, there's almost too much to cover in 1 hour. So my hope is to really get an idea of, hey, these are some things we could really plan on seeing, in the next few years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years, maybe. But like I said, the deeper I dive into this, there's not many prophets that say, hey, in this year, this is going to happen.
Right. But kind of general things that we can that are going to be relevant to us now and in the near future. Absolutely.
Yeah. And things that we could likely see according to the prophets.
Cool. Well, that sounds real interesting, and that's definitely a different topic. So it definitely adds to the diversity of stuff we've got these different presentations focusing on.
Well, I'm excited, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this, and just think that everybody that's going to be here is going to be so phenomenal and offers so much wonderful knowledge, and really thrilled that you put this together.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good thing. We doing it online allowed us to get a lot more people than we normally would have anyway. So I think it's worked out really, really well. And you're actually, Kiki, you will be starting us off on Saturday.
That's right.
26th.
The opening slot. So it'll be like a coffee hour for us.
Yes. I think that's just for everybody that is going. That's 11:05 to 12:05 on that Saturday Eastern time, and you guys will also be able to catch that if you miss it as well on the Facebook group. Okay, Stephanie, let's get into yours. We got to talk a little bit about this with you on Banal of America the other night, because you were the only call-in when we were on. But
yeah, I was home with nothing better to do. No, it was fun. It was really enjoyable talking to you guys, and I appreciate you talking about the history of and some of the stuff with the Masons too, because I had a couple of very good friends when I was younger who were quite older. Actually, I met one guy. I was about 23, probably. He was 90, and he was a Mason, and we became very good friends. So I always like hearing that history. So
was that during the Golden Girls era too?
Let's see. It possibly could have been before the Golden Girls era. I'm almost 60, so I've been around a while. But Kiki, I think it's fascinating that you're going to be talking about prophecy and divination in this particular conference, because we have a lot of people, or some people, talking about like the UFO experience and also folk magic, and a lot of people that have these close encounters with lights in the sky or strange beings, as you know, come back and they have these ideas about the future, right? These prophecies that they come back with. Same with like near-death experiences, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's almost like people have they have their shamanic, and I'm putting that in quotations, they have that shamanic experience that really, or maybe even a traumatic experience, and all of a sudden their perception shifts and they're downloading this insane information.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to hear that in context of some of these other speakers at the conference, and it's an outstanding lineup. So, but anyway, so I am going to be speaking on synchronicities, which have become very popular over the last while, like especially with Hellier. I have always been interested in them, but I got really interested almost like about 17 or 18 years ago, and started doing experiments. Because I'm not just going to be talking about synchronicities, I am going to be trying to activate the participants' own capacity to generate synchronicities on purpose, which sounds crazy, but I've been doing it for over 15 years, probably close to 18 years now, on my own, and also with other people. And so I'll be just basically doing that. I have a background, academic background in like science, anthropology, so I'm used to that kind of intellectual rigor. But at the same time, I have studied with a number of different spiritual teachers, meditation teachers. I lived in a Tibetan Buddhist meditation center with the Rinpoche for a while. We had teachers come through. I dated this Native American shaman lady who was like super hardcore. And for a while, and so I learned a lot about that. So I've had a lot of these spiritual teachers, as well as I had a near-death experience when I was 21 and was in contact with these discarnate beings that I learned a lot from and still do. So I'm going to be trying to fold that in to give people a little bit of structure for approaching this type of experiment, and a little bit of a how-to, some ideas on the theory behind what's going on and how to track what's happening with your synchronicities. But also trying to get that kind of transmission going through at the same time. Because with a lot of spiritual teachers, even in the lab and stuff, you'll notice that certain ideas, if you're exposed to them, they can kind of activate these capacities. For example, a lot of people will hear about out-of-body experience or lucid dreaming. They'll go on the subreddit for lucid dreaming and spend 3 or 4 hours reading all about it, and then that night they go and they're lucid for the first time, right? So being around people that have this capacity activated, and also being exposed to these ideas intensely, putting your attention there, can help you to activate this. It's not like I have some big secret. I've just, it's like if you wanted to learn golf, if you're around someone who's a good golfer, it might be helpful. Someone who's been practicing. So I've been trying to, let's see, due to the characteristics of the paranormal generally, you're going to have more paranormal things popping up or happening outside of heavily structured environments, right? Jeff Ritzman talks about this a lot, anti-structure versus structure. So when you're on vacation, right, you don't have your normal day-to-day structure. You're a lot more likely to have, for example, poltergeist experience like someone that you know, Jenny, right?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, that's a classic. It's a classic example, classic situation. Plus, how old was he? He was getting towards puberty, right?
12 or 13, yeah. He was 12.
Exactly, which is another thing. You're not quite a kid. You're not quite an adult. So it's kind of like slipping in between. So on the one hand, I want to come across as like a smart person who has their act together, have this real structured with everything, da-da-da. But the thing is, that type of environment is going to kneecap the subconscious in trying to produce any of these synchronicities. So I'm trying to figure out how to make a presentation that will help people to get into that energetic or whatever vibe where they can allow these things to happen, but not come across as like a complete flake. So that's basically that. Jenny, I had a question for you.
Oh, okay.
And this actually ended up being kind of a weird synchronicity, which poor Adam, I've been subjecting him to this over the last couple of days. He's been very sweet. So when I heard the three of us were going to be on together, Jenny, I've been a fan of yours for quite a while.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and I love you just do like this completely righteous research about all these true crime cases. Now, I don't know why, like about 3 years ago, I was noodling around looking stuff about Ed Kemper.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area during the 70s. And so, a lot of those guys were around.
Yeah.
I was startled when I saw, because, he killed his grandparents when he was 15. And it said that he had killed them in North Fork, California. Now, this got me because my Uncle Bob, my great Uncle Bob, had a gas station in North Fork, California. Next door, my mom's cousin Les had a lodge, like the Buckhorn Lodge. People go, they have like food and drinking and sawdust on the floor, all that type of stuff. This is up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And and my dad and my mom spent summers there growing up. They didn't know each other. And then we would go there all the time growing up to visit my uncle and stuff. So I was startled that, there was this intersection there, on top of which, my parents would have been around there, and my Uncle Bob, he was very prominent in town. He was the chief of the volunteer fire department for many years. So I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, did you hear about this guy? Plus also he was really tall, and all the guys in that side of the family are like 6 feet, 6'2", 6'6". So they would have noticed someone who was actually taller than any of them. And he said, he said to me, I don't know, I don't recall that, but the thing is that that's not the only North Fork in California, so I'm wondering if you know which North Fork.
Oh my gosh, I don't. I've never actually been to California. I didn't know there was more than one.
Me either, until just recently. So here's the weird thing, because there's the creek fire that is blowing up in California. It started 2 or 3 days ago, and it showed up right east of North Fork, my North Fork. And last night, as I wanted to ask you about North Fork, they were subject to mandatory evacuation. And I don't know if that town has been burned yet or anything. So that's kind of a weird intersection.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is, we had that Hennessy fire. Actually, I was supposed to be recording a show with Rojan Razorwire and David Metcalf, who's going to be presenting on folk magic, on the 19th. And then on the 18th of August, I was looking out the deck, and I took some pictures from the deck, and you could just see it looks like a nuclear explosion. At one point, it looks like a mothership, because when the pyroaccumulus busts through another layer, it makes that kind of ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. Okay, so we had to cancel that show because of all the hecticness. But the funny thing I just realized today was I was watching that fire, and I was like up off and on all night watching the glow move along the horizon of the mountains there. Luckily, it was about 30 miles away from me. But that went into Vacaville and burned structures in Vacaville. And who lives in Vacaville right now? Edmund Kemper.
Oh my gosh. Someone's trying to get him.
I really, if only they burned up him instead of the, all the people.
Though, for some reason, it's just kind of like, this guy.
Yeah, he manages. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, so that's the type of things that are kind of a little bit of an unusual intersection. To me, one of the things that's very fascinating about these synchronicities, I don't know why my own personal belief is that there's a structure of meaning to the universe, and you kind of have these patterns that tend to reveal themselves in certain circumstances. But I completely lost my train of thought. I had Lyme disease a number of years ago, and every once in a while it went to the central nervous system, and I had seizures and stuff, which was very interesting if you like to meditate, because it's a very altered state of consciousness. But sometimes you have these brain farts. Okay, so but I'm very interested in tracing the way that the meaning realm or the imaginal realm, the realm of ideas, influences the material realm, is reflected in the material realm, and then how that can go back and influence the realm of ideas. If you even just think of like math, obviously that's something that happens in the realm of ideas, right? If I have a bunch of equations on a piece of paper, that's not math, because you may not understand it. It's symbols about math. But then if you come up with an equation like Einstein did, that can have huge repercussions on the world. So that's all my stuff. Kiki, the other funny thing about Tarot, the reason that Metcalf and Rojan and I were going to be recording on that day when the fire broke out was because it was one of those things. It's like, okay, we could do it in this week, and everyone's like, it's fine for me. No, any day is fine for me. No, you choose. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull a card. So I got my deck out, and I just chose cards for the days, and just as kind of a lark. And when I opened my got my tarot deck out, this card, I don't know if you could see it that well. Probably not really, but it was at the top of the deck, and then I shuffled them and I pulled it again. And this is from the Secret Dakini Oracle deck, which is pre-Golden Girls as well. In the 70s, it's like a collage deck, which I really love the imagery. But it was 19 was the day, and it's the Phoenix card, right? The Firebird, and it has a couple of deities in cosmic union, but then it has all these flames at the bottom of it. I wish I could show it to you. You can see a little bit better there.
It a little bit, yes.
Yeah, which is trippy, because then we had this huge, massive, like the third largest fire in California until last week, or today, bust out that day when I pulled that fire card. So, but it gets it. Part of the trouble with prophecy and divination, which is it deals in a symbol language that can be difficult to map onto our practical, mundane time-space reality. So,
yeah, and that's interesting. You say that too. I think that when people receive those predictions, those prophecies, those psychic insights, they also doubt themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
there's that can't be right. Nah, that doesn't mean anything. That was wrong. I'm going to pull another card, or I'm just going to ignore that.
Yeah. I was reading, a few years ago, I did a show on the Alex cast on premonitions. And I did a lot of research, and it was very interesting because there was one article about this group that I thought was fascinating. They were called Stock Market Dreamers. And it was a bunch of people, I think it was the 80s or 90s. And they wanted to get together and encourage each other and help each other with being able to dream the future of the stock market and become adept at it enough to make money. But they all talk about what you just mentioned. First of all, it's like opening that relationship with the subconscious dreaming mind so that you can understand the symbolism and that you're not constantly kind of kneecapping yourself or tripping yourself up. So it's very much along that process that you were talking about right there.
So they didn't have any luck figuring? I guess not. We haven't heard of their money.
Actually, according to the people that did this, some of them made quite a bit of money, but it was very much a process. And this happened like back in the 90s. I don't know that there's been a lot of documentation or writing up of what they did that I could find. But yeah, I think lots of times Greg Bishop, another presenter, is real big on this whole idea of small groups of people experimenting privately and then presenting their results, as opposed to just kind of this big ongoing everything all out there. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
The stock market, you might want to keep that to yourself too.
Yes, I think so.
So, Jenny, you got any experiences with tarot? Have you ever had your tarot read?
I have not. I kind of got into it when I was a lot younger, but I didn't really get that far into it. I've really only I've been to a psychic maybe one time, and that was in Casadega, which, if anybody knows anything about anything, it's, that's kind of the place where all the spiritualists went, like back in the day. So it's kind of like there's a lot of psychics there and stuff. So I went there many years ago with my mom and my aunt, but it wasn't like a one-on-one kind of thing. It was almost kind of like a psychic church. Like you went in there and you sat in a pew, and then like the lady would stand in the front and she would like just go around the room and like tell you each, a thing about yourself or whatever. But, I guess because it was so diluted, because there was so many people there, she didn't really tell me anything that was all that compelling, I guess. But yeah, I've never actually had my tarot read, but I was like really into it, and I do have like a couple of decks, but I didn't really get all that much into it now.
The thing with tarot for me, it's like, and I think I've run this across to you before, Kiki, when I had you on. It's just like, I mean, I have my friend Heather that I think Stephanie. She's read my tarot a lot, and she's really, really good at it. I mean, like last year at the conference in 2019, she came and read tarot for like half the day, and she made like a lot of money just do it. I think she might have made more than we did off the conference. But so like for me, it's weird because like I will feel like it is like actually telling me something about my life, but it just times like the more skeptical side of me thinks that it's like a really psychological kind of effect. Like it's almost like whatever that you're being told or what you see in the cards, like it's almost like it can be kind of vague. So it's kind of like whatever that will like, it will fit regardless of your life into your life. But then there's other things that have happened to me that I'm just like, well, that was interesting. Like there was a lot of synchronicities that started in my life, but started with a tarot reading. I'll just leave it at that. But like that, it's almost like it can be like it can almost start to trigger like synchronicities. It's like its own kind of synchronicity in a weird way, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, the thing with synchronicity is that and one of the reasons why I think they're very interesting to study and why I want to get people interested in doing their own experiments on that, you have the big spontaneous paranormal phenomena like UFO sightings, alien kidnaps, ghost stuff, poltergeist, all those things. The big problem in studying them is that they just pop up who knows where. They don't necessarily last very long. You can't really get there in time to study it at the time it's happening. However, all of those paranormal phenomena are intricately interrelated with synchronicities. Synchronicities will pop up around all that type of stuff. I mean, Jacques Vallée wrote that book, Messengers of Deception, and he has this fantastic synchronicity at the end of it around his research. But, because he's been so focused on this paranormal subject, he wasn't trying to get a synchronicity happening. But the thing with synchronicities is it's a lot easier to get them to kind of start sparking. And then once they start happening, you will have more traditionally paranormal things show up. For example, like premonitions, or you can have, UFO sightings or telepathy, dream telepathy. Actually, before I pulled this card, I had been in contact with someone who we were talking about psychic training. If you have psychic things happening like PK or telepathy or whatever, how to practice so that you can hopefully gain more control. And so a couple days before that fire broke out, he actually had a dream where he saw my tarot deck, and he saw it in this, because I made this thing for 1 billion years ago, and it has this kind of mesh over the case, and he said it's like this translucent thing. I was like, bang, I know that's exactly my tarot deck. So you start to have things like that, like great dream telepathy, because you are working with these synchronicities, I think, sometimes. And then hopefully this could be something that you could study more to get a kind of a toe in the door on some of what's happening with some of this paranormal stuff, and be able to make it happen more reliably in laboratory and then also real life settings so you can study it. So that's my theory.
That's cool. What I really like about your stuff too, Stephanie, is the role of synchronicity in research. Like, you'll start looking into something, exploring some concepts or people or ideas, and then these synchronicities flow and kind of like bring information to you in unexpected ways. And I really like that, because I've had personal experience in that. I've shared some stories with you where similar kind of things happen, and that's like, I really think that stuff's really interesting.
Yeah, there's like an aspect of it too, where you can leverage it different ways, and leveraging it for like luck or networking, or the library angel, finding that one document that is perfect for your research. No, that's a really great thing, and that's another thing where if you can do it more consciously, I think people can get a lot of great results. I guess David Metcalf was saying that he uses synchronicity to find books that would be like way out of his budget. Just kind of like set an intention. I know. I was thinking everyone listening is going to want to give me his best friend now. But
she's trying to find like obscure salesman books from like 1954.
Yep.
Right now.
Yep. The old Farmer's Almanac from 1923. But so he says he'll set that, it's his intention, and just kind of wait, and then it'll come up in a strange, out of the way used bookstore or something like that at a price that, a good price. So yeah, that's one aspect of synchronicity, is can be very personally useful too, as opposed to just the kind of theoretical research about what the heck is going on. So
Kiki, have you had any like really strange and profound synchronicities in your life?
I don't know. I guess not. I guess the answer, I guess the short answer is no, because nothing is coming to my head. I've definitely had some strange dreams where very vivid things come up. I don't know if it's synchronicity, but I don't know. I have to obviously like listen to your presentation so I could get on the synchronicity bandwagon. I definitely have premonitions, and I feel like I definitely get psychic hits, and I definitely get very interesting psychic downloads and my own predictions coming through that I'll share. But I don't know. I have intuitive hits. I feel like it's just a little different. So I'm definitely interested in hearing what I can do to get involved in the group project that you're going to plan.
Cool.
Well, the funny thing is that with a lot of these things is that sometimes so the definition is just that you have, like a meaningful coincidence, right? Some strange, unusual thing has happened that you notice because it's meaningful. And you might not sometimes see that meaning really until later. But yeah, like I said before, with the whole tarot dream telepathy, I mean, that in conjunction with me pulling the card and stuff is kind of a synchronicity, but it's composed of these things where you could say, oh, this is divination, this is telepathy. So I think there's a lot of overlap, and sometimes it's just you call it one thing because you're just going to call it that. But
right. I have to think on it. If I've had any synchronicities. I guess I've never looked for them. That's why I'm so excited and so intrigued to hear what you have to share, because it would definitely just be something else for me to step into and experience and explore and think about. And who isn't looking for a leg up? Like, I mean, if there's something that we can do to help put us in the right direction, let's try it out.
Yeah.
Stephanie is going to turn up the Earth Coincidence Control Office to 11.
Well, it's a weird thing that when you're talking about like vivid dreams or intuition, because the more I've experimented with this, it really reminds me of the surrealist art movement, because it's kind of like you have these things that happen in real life, but they have the logic and kind of symbolism that you would expect in a dream. And Kiki, I wonder about you, because you sound like you've done a fair amount of psychic training and practice, and certain esoteric people will say that you've allowed that control so that you can go about, do the normal everyday stuff that you need to do without having, constant psychic weirdness impinging on you, because that can be very, very difficult and very challenging to handle. So, I kind of wonder if you have come up with like a way of dealing with this capacity of yours that works out for you. So you don't need to have the synchronicity stuff necessarily, or have it be playing out on the world stage. But,
that's interesting too, because, tarot and I do channeling also. I turned the switch off when I'm done with the session. It feels like sort of this, like, I don't know, this etheric switch where I'm just like, okay, I'm turning the open sign off. It's not, going to be just because you're right. There is where you, if you open yourself up to that all the time and you have that sort of rawness or that vulnerability, it can be very draining and very exhausting and probably, I don't know, I've always called myself like an antenna. When you're an empath or you're very sensitive, you just pick up on the frequencies that everybody is putting out there. And so, yeah, you do have to learn certain methods and ways to sort of stay grounded and turn things down or turn things off and turn things on when you need them again. But, yeah, I've got to start looking for synchronicities now. Maybe something will happen. I'm in a very transitory time right now. And
a liminal time, liminal space.
Exactly.
God, it truly is. It's something special. And we're really shifting into that time of year where everybody talks about that liminality, or I guess that's a word, that fuzziness between our world and the other world, everybody
the thinning of the veil.
Yes, yep. that thinning of the veil is always that autumnal sensation. So it's a good time to have the conference.
Yeah,
it is. It really is. It's only like a few days after the fall equinox, right?
Yeah.
By the way, Jenny Surfiel mentioned the Earth Coincidence Control Office, or ECHO for short. That's a reference to a doctor named John Lilly, who did all these weird like ketamine experiences.
Oh yeah,
and
I've heard of that. Yeah,
he was the guy that Altered States was based off of.
That's right. Yes, we reviewed that movie not too long ago. That's I've always been fascinated by that kind of stuff. It's just kind of like I don't know. I should delve more into that, like into more altered states type of stuff, because that's always really interesting to me, especially me, like somebody that, because I'm kind of trying to get back more into like writing more fiction and stuff, and I feel like I need to kind of like, I don't know, like go off into another dimension maybe for a little while and like get some new ideas and stuff, because I feel like I'm too grounded in reality sometimes, you know.
Uh-oh.
Well, this has been excellent, guys. Really, thank you for coming on and doing this, giving us like little brief preview of your presentations. So just like real quick, guys. So Jenny, you are scheduled. I think I grabbed the wrong thing.
I'm
last on Friday night.
Yeah, I'm like at 10:40, something like that.
Yeah, 10:40 to 11:40. That's the time. Okay, because this being a online conference, not everybody's going to be the same time zone. We got people going to be watching from Australia and from England and all kinds of places. So, and then Kiki, as we mentioned before, you are speaking Saturday morning at 11:05, 12:05 Eastern time. And then Stephanie, you are at 3 o'clock to, you are basically like, I think 4:10 to like 3:10 on Sunday, I believe. If I've revived this thing a couple of times, so hopefully that's right. So tell everybody, starting with Jenny, everybody like where they can find you guys, and we'll just go from there.
Okay, easiest place to find me is just go to YouTube and search for 13 O'Clock Podcast. You'll see all the stuff there. We do a weekly show about various topics, paranormal, true crime, weird history, just all kinds of anything that's weird or spooky. We do shows about that. We also do movie reviews, usually horror movies or sci-fi, old movies and new movies. So all of that. I also just started doing horror book reviews, so check those out as well. Or you can just go to my website, www.jennyashford.com, and that has links to all the books I've written and all the podcasts and everything else that I do, also my artwork and all that other kind of stuff.
Okay. Kiki?
I think the best way to reach me is through my website, kikidombrowski.com. If you don't remember how to spell that, you could just Google Kiki Tarot, and I just pop up at the top of the search, or close to the top. Kiki Tarot, kikidombrowski.com. I'm a little bit bashful on social media, but I do my best. If you want to reach out to me on social media, the best place to do so is Twitter. And my Twitter handle, I guess they call it a handle, the @ is KikiD333. So I'd love for us to connect there.
All right. And Stephanie?
Yeah, well, first of all, Adam and Surfield, thank you so much. And it was really delightful to speak with you, Jenny and Kiki. I'm looking forward to more. If you go to my blog, it's called Ghost Dog is a Mystery Box, and the address is stephaniequick.home.blog. And if you go to the About page, I have like my Twitter handle there. It's Wander and Britches, but it's spelled this weird way, which I don't know why I spelled it that way so many years ago. I'm also on Facebook at Stephanie Quick. Yeah, so probably the blog is the easiest, and you can go to the About page and find more ways to contact me. So that's it.
Cool.
Okay, excellent. All
Thank
right,
you all for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Stay with us here for a little bit. I'm going to close this out, and I'll end the stream. So what we are doing, guys, we are doing previews tonight with presenters from our upcoming Strange Realities Conference. Next up at about 10:45-ish or so, we're going to have Seriah Azkath and Where Did the Road Go? Timothy Renner from Strange Familiars, and the great and only Joshua Cutchin are all three going to be here with us in less than 2 hours. So make sure you guys check that out. And information, you guys have probably seen it if you're watching now on the stream or you're watching later, www.strangerealitiesconference.com. $20 to see these three fine presenters and also about 18 more of them at the Strange Realities Conference. So take advantage of that, guys. Tickets are selling quick. We are not, no pun intended, Stephanie.
My mom actually bought a ticket as well, so there's no excuse for any of you not to.
Nice. Okay.
Sweet.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, and we will be back in a couple hours on Conspirinormal.
Awesome.
And here we are. We are back, guys.
Welcome back.
We are finally live, and I don't think there's any like annoying buzz this time because I have it set to the right microphone. We're still working out the kinks. So we've got another set of 3 speakers, and these guys are some of my favorite researchers and podcasters and all the way around great guys. 2 of which were at Strange Realities 2019 last year. So I want to welcome back Seriah Azkath. Say hello, Seriah.
No.
And Joshua Cutchin.
Hi, everybody. I'm still alive.
And yeah, you're still alive. That's always good to hear.
Yeah,
and Timothy Renner of the Strange Familiars podcast.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
I kind of feel like Dr. Evil because the cat is on top of me.
I was going to ask if that's the Seriah Azkath.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
and now she wants to get down, but she doesn't know how to let go.
Yeah, we are visited by Seriah's cat tonight, so this should be interesting, guys. We're gonna go about probably 45 to an hour here. Just whatever we get to talking to. So let's start. We are going to start talking about you guys' presentations, what you guys are going to be talking about, and we'll just kind of take it from there. And why don't we just start with you, Seriah? What are you going to be talking about at the Strange Realities 2020 coming up?
What am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about time and different ways of looking at the paranormal, and how time doesn't seem to work the way I did a podcast on what I can only call a mechanism that I suspect has something to do with how the paranormal works. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. And it involves around how time doesn't work the way we think it does. But it's also going to be about looking at other ways we can look at this phenomena and the ways it's interconnected, particularly by poltergeist phenomena.
Okay. And what kind of like research have you done? Like who's like some of the authors that you've kind of picked up from all this? Is Eric Wargo one of the authors?
Talking about? Eric Wargo definitely clicked certain things in my head, but it's really just a conglomeration of everything at some point clicking and making this sort of make sense to me in a way that like just seemed to work. I don't know if that's what's happening, but there's no easy way of dismissing it either or proving it, unfortunately.
So you're almost presenting like a unified field theory?
No, it's not. It doesn't explain what the paranormal is, but it may explain some of the way that the paranormal manifests and why.
Okay, that's the mechanism. Okay,
right. That's why I call it a mechanism rather than any kind of like a overall theory. And it's how it always works, but in some cases. And it's a matter of taking time not as something that's cause and effect. Or it is cause and effect, but not always from past to present, but sometimes from future to present. So yeah, Eric Wargo kind of like spawned that on, as did I can't remember his name. He wrote a book on UFOs as poltergeist phenomena.
Oh, Eric Wallett.
Yes, that's it, Eric Wallett. Like his book, I read his book, I loved it, and I thought he's onto something, but there's more to it than this.
That's really exciting because that might actually dovetail with, like Tim, I'm looking beyond where the footprints end. That sounded kind of funny. To some other projects, and one of them that actually might, I might have to steal some of your ideas, like I apparently stole your wilderness poltergeist idea.
Well, you named it. The name is totally yours.
No. It's but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I remember listening to that podcast, and I was it was one of those episodes where I wasn't paying complete attention, and because I wasn't, I couldn't follow it. It's a complex enough idea that you have to be like dedicated to figuring it out. So I'm going to go back and listen to that before I hear your presentation.
It's hard to explain too. Tim here suggested I apply some visual ideas to it to help kind of like make it easier to comprehend, and that might help.
That did help me, like, just, I guess, being a somewhat visual person, that helped me sort of grasp more, because, I had heard people describe time as a ribbon that's laid over on itself before, and where it's touching is where you get these bleed throughs and stuff.
Right.
And then I thought, well, maybe it's not that organized. Maybe it's like a tangled ball of string that's just smashed together.
Yeah.
And then you said, no, it's more like a lake, and that actually made a lot more sense to me, because it's like you're in the lake and it's all around you.
And a big event is going to make bigger ripples, and more likely that people are going to pick up on it and respond to it without realizing that that's what's happening.
Right.
Well, you think about those random number generators and whatnot that were positioned, before 9/11, that seemed to, in hindsight, indicate that something big was going to happen. So that idea definitely tracks.
Yeah, that whole idea about time being the event causing the ripples that go to the left, to the right, and that being back and forward in time, that is extremely fascinating to me.
I mean, it also dovetails with the work of Daryl Bem and his pre-sentiment experiments from Cornell University.
Yes, it does. Yep.
Right.
I applied as many of the psi, like when I looked through this, I said, okay, what psi experiments have we done that holds up this? And there's quite a few of them.
Well, psi is the most reputable field of paranormal research, hands down, in my opinion. It's the one where when I talk to people about their buy-in of believing in this stuff, I'm like, if you can just buy this one thing that is like practically scientifically proven in a laboratory, I mean, I think that if it was just for a slight shift in paradigm, we wouldn't even be having this as a debate anymore. But here we are.
And I think an easy example is something like a banshee. So, someone experiences a banshee and they know a loved one is going to die, but the first event is the loved one dying, and that sends waves of energy backwards, and the person may not interpret it as like a psychic revelation. They may not go, oh, so-and-so is going to die, or have a dream. Instead, it just kind of hits their unconscious, and their unconscious, using, energy that's now traumatizing to them, creates a poltergeist.
So in that case, what you're saying is that it sends the energy kind of back in time.
Right.
And that creates this phenomenon that is almost like the harbinger.
Right. It's our response to that energy on an unconscious level creates a poltergeist. Now, in some cases, if it's something massive like the Mothman, it might be that there's also an other that sees this huge reservoir of energy open up and tries to get through and communicate with us.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're not silent because we think you're crazy. We're silent because we're chewing on it. So
yes, it's hard to wrap your brain around. I don't know how I wrapped my brain around it the first time. It was kind of there, and I'm like, I need to write this down, and I don't know how.
So what you're saying is like with you mentioned the Mothman, so we're saying that it's like manifesting some kind of like physical entity in a sense?
Well, I think he's saying that it creates like a gate. It creates like some kind of gate or rip that other things can come through as well.
Right.
Okay.
With the Mothman, you had a perfect storm. You had an area that was already had a lot of weird energy to it. You had, according to John Keel, a lot of people who were either psychic or latently psychic. And you had an incredibly traumatic event that happened. I mean, what could be worse for a small community than a bridge collapse killing all those people on Christmas Eve or whatever it was?
Right.
I mean, this is something that's going to send reverberations through time.
Yeah, so extending the lake metaphor, if time is a lake and you've got these reverberations and whatnot, Mothman's like a bass,
Yeah.
that jumped, that managed because there were so many, ripples or whatever. There was so much wake on the lake. It was a rhyme. There's so much wake on the lake that it ended up just jumping out of the water for a little bit.
Right.
There's a question here from YouTube, Seriah. They want to know if you're familiar with something. Can you see that on the screen?
I can't even pronounce that, but no, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. Let us know what that is in the put that in the chat, because that might be something that is
I definitely want to look into that.
Okay.
But also, like with that type of thing, I mean, you have that perfect storm, and so some people would have dreams of things like the the presence in the river and stuff like that. But other people were probably picking it up on an unconscious level, which is what creates poltergeist activity, is trauma on an unconscious level where it has no outlet. And so it may have also created a tulpa that became the Mothman. It may be that something else there saw look at this big pool of energy. Let's utilize this. It could be any number of things. Like I said, it's not an explanation for what happened, but maybe more of a mechanism of why this stuff happened for the 3 years or so before the bridge collapse, and then stopped at the bridge collapse.
Okay, or even something like Seriah, like an egregore, right? I mean, could that be what Mothman is? A tulpa that is inhabited by an actual entity. Then you're getting really complicated.
Yeah, and the problem is we can't prove any of that stuff. We don't know.
Viable. Yeah.
It could be anything from a tulpa to an actual other to a phantasm. I mean, we have no way of knowing, and we may never know.
I am personally looking for Mothman nests and the eggs that are in them that hatch the baby Mothman. Because cryptozoology.
I want a baby Mothman, Tim.
Me too.
I'll get one for you.
Seriah, forgive me if you mentioned this on that episode where you outlined this theory, and if it spoils too much of the lecture, don't address it. But does time dilation and missing time, is this idea account for that? I can't recall.
I don't think I addressed that.
Okay.
Tim and I were talking about the other night. Seth had once said that time moves at the speed that your brain can process events.
I knew Seth was going to get mentioned tonight.
Yeah. Well,
see, that's precognitive. Precognitive.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's, regardless of what Seth was, there's a lot of really deep wisdom in the stuff that was written. But if you look at that, it kind of makes sense, because when you're bored and sitting around, time crawls. When you're busy, time flies. So if you're having a weird experience and an abnormal experience, maybe time's moving in a completely different way. You're perceiving it in a completely different way, and when you get done with it, you're like, "Oh, I'm missing time," but you weren't. It's just that you were processing so much stuff that time just jumped almost.
Okay, I agree with part two. Part one is a direct refutation of the theory of relativity, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking theory, right?
We're talking subjective versus empirical.
Okay, fair enough.
So interesting comment in the YouTube section. It says Kill said in Eighth Tower that Mothman UFOs and other paranormal event were control mechanisms.
And
is that related to you to your idea?
No. But it could be used that way. I mean, if something wanted to use it as a control mechanism, there would be the energy to do it. I guess the mechanism I'm talking about is that you're having an event that generally creates poltergeist activity, but the event's actually happening in the future. It's happening first. We know that stuff moves backwards in time. Daryl Bem's experiment is kind of one of the things that triggered that.
Right.
Because when people would see images of violence or sexuality, that's what they were picking up in the brain scans moments before the image was even chosen, which suggests that, yes, this stuff moves backwards. So that's a very minor thing. That's just an image versus, again, a bridge collapse in a small community killing however many people it killed in the holidays. Like, how much worse can that be?
They could have all had diarrhea.
Thanks, Josh.
Oh. No, that's an excellent point. There's a critical mass of things that are of things that are happening that just sort of echo backwards. That tracks.
And you see stuff like 9/11 when you mentioned with the random number generator and stuff. that, and plenty of people had dreams of 9/11. Plenty of people had, did artwork of the Twin Towers on fire.
Yeah, the iconography was there. The iconography was there in place for decades. Yeah.
So, I mean, some of it could just be that was an obvious target, but I suspect that people were picking up. But unlike the Mothman, where it's a small town and it affected a very distinct community in a very distinct area, 9/11 kind of had a widespread effect.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have a Mothman-like effect from something like 9/11 because it wasn't focused enough.
Yeah, and you can see little minor sinks that sort of line up with the coronavirus pandemic too.
Yes.
Yeah. Which would suggest that you're onto something.
And I've had enough prophetic dreams that I know things move backwards in time. Either that, or we're going in a straight line and we don't get choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of Eric Wargo's thing, isn't it? That we don't really have free will.
Yeah.
But you disagree with that, I think.
I sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Like, I want to disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not 100% sure that I actually disagree with him. It's the thing is, though, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know the difference. Like, if you feels like you're making choices, then you wouldn't know you're not making choices.
Yeah, there's Dave Altman says there was a group of kids that had dreams of 9/11 that the FBI looked into. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Well, and also another good example, Seriah, that you might want to think about too is I was just talking with a friend the other day about the code names that appeared in British newspaper crossword puzzles just before Operation Overlord on D-Day. There was an entire string that May of crossword puzzles that featured very important very important code words like Overlord, like Omaha, like Normandy, all these different things would appeared in the same publication if memory serves, which would also again be a huge event, like a history changing event that would sort of create a psychic ripple backwards.
Okay, well, let me ask this question about these huge events. Now, are we dealing with the fact that we're dealing with things that are mass deaths of people, and that causes some kind of psychic rift in and of itself?
I think it's trauma.
So just any kind of trauma. So
yeah.
if you had something like the Tunguska explosion, right? That didn't really kill anybody, but was in a really isolated area.
I don't think that would have caused the same type of thing, because there was no real trauma there. Because again, it didn't kill anybody. It may have been traumatic to the landscape, but I don't know that we interpret that the same way.
So you two comment here with that Seriah's theory in mind: could ultra-terrestrial beings, fourth dimensional beings, could then see the future past the ripples and work within that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think when we deal with the other, it's not working with time the same way we are.
No, that seems pretty patently apparent.
Yeah.
All right.
Keel noted that way back that they seem to be outside of time.
So let's get to Josh. Josh, what are you going to be talking about at our Strange Realities conference?
The Buzz and the Beast, altered states of consciousness in Bigfoot encounters. The subtitle might change, but I like The Buzz and the Beast. I was going to say psychedelic Bigfoot, which is a lot sexier name, but I don't think I can quite go with that psychedelic label, because a lot of these all seem to be centered around that. But I've long said that the last, paranormal discipline, if you so to speak, that would ever actually fully embrace the problem of consciousness would be cryptozoology, because a lot of them are very materialist minded. They want to capture Bigfoot, they want to find the Mothman eggs, they're convinced that their quarry is something that can be stuffed and mounted in the Smithsonian, quite a few of them. And so I'm exploring the possibility that there could be an altered state experience in the Bigfoot it's sort of the catalog of Bigfoot encounters. A lot of this is looking into the possibility of sound being an instigator in terms of facilitating the altered state of consciousness. There's a real problem amongst the flesh and blood hypothesis crowd that where they like to.
We get to see the eye rolls on these.
I know, right? They like to. On the one hand, they'll say, well, you can't explain one unknown with another. That's poor science, and that's not very intellectually honest. But the fact of the matter is that at the same time, in the same breath, they'll say that infrasound is the answer for everything. Infrasound. Oh, you were dizzy. Infrasound. Oh, you were disoriented after your Bigfoot encounter. Infrasound. Oh, you had missing time after your Bigfoot encounter. Infrasound. But and while infrasound is a real thing that certain large predators do employ, we haven't even established that Bigfoot exists, nonetheless, that they have the mechanisms to produce infrasound.
Right.
So I found a really interesting thread through several different encounters of some pretty consistent descriptions of sounds immediately preceding these encounters. Sounds that seem to be drone-like. Now, of course, this flies in the face of the fact that you do get the Oz factor in a lot of Bigfoot encounters.
Right.
But you have to sort of accept the fact that not every encounter is necessarily going to adhere to the same parameters. So there does seem to be no shortage of sightings where there is some sort of buzzing sound or droning sound that occurs. And so we're looking at that. And if we have time, we might even dig into some Bigfoot mind speak, which is just fun and goofy, and I love it.
Nice.
Bigfoot mind speaks. So they've gone beyond the Sierra sounds now. Is it?
Oh yeah. There's plenty of mind speak, plenty of really well positioned, well respected Bigfoot researchers and enthusiasts who have described Bigfoot directly, having a telepathic link. And a lot of these messages, if they aren't, I would say that the bulk of these messages are something along the lines of like, don't harm me and I won't harm you, or please don't take a picture of me, literally. But sometimes they often sort of fall into that sort of rote 1950s, 1960s contactee sort of message of unification and environmental respect and things along those lines.
It's just like complete melding with the alien stuff too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Remember when they were warning about nuclear war and all this kind of stuff, like Whitley Strieber talks about in Communion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and a lot of that's now it's Bigfoot warning against ecological disaster. It's just like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, the messages are very similar. And so it's one of those things where it's been quite in vogue to sort of invoke the possibility of altered states in regarding UFOs and fairies. But I don't think anybody has really tackled it with Bigfoot before. So I'm really excited to bring that to the fore. And there might be some live demonstrations.
Oh, so you'll be passing out tabs of acid during
No. I might have
you'll have to mail them.
Right?
You want to send that through the mail, Josh?
It'll be like Oprah. Everybody look under your seats and open up the envelope with the tab of acid in it.
Maybe we could do that at Strange Realities 3, okay? Where everybody's back together again.
The one of my fellow bandmates in Stone Breath, he had his own band, and they used to do a song about Timothy Leary, and they would have this fake sort of mass for Timothy Leary while they played the song. And one time they were playing at this festival, and they had all these sugar cubes, which they had randomly dosed certain sugar cubes with LSD.
Wow.
And people came up to take communion, and they I would never have done that. I feel like that's a lawsuit in the making, but they had randomly dosed certain sugar cubes, and so certain people got a real dose.
Yeah. that gets into issues of consent
Wow.
as well.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I think people thought it was. I mean, they kind of announced that it was going to be a thing.
Oh, okay.
You know, but they did not announce that only certain ones were going to be. But anyway.
Well, no, it won't be that. It won't be that involved or that impressive.
All right.
but there should be an audio component to some of those. Yeah.
So so is your next book going to be on sound? Are you finally attaching sound?
Huh?
No, because there are people who've done like the paranormal rock stuff and like rock and roll ghosts, and there's a lot of stuff with paranormal music. I don't think. I mean, maybe at some point I'll tackle that, but
You got to get all the senses.
yeah, I know. Touch is going to be kind of creepy, isn't it? With all those alien abduction stories.
Paranormal bad touch.
Yeah.
Tell us where the Bigfoot touched you.
Yeah, exactly. Show me on the doll where the alien touched you, or the alien probed you. No, actually, my next official thing after Where the Footprints End Volume 2 is I'm curating a book of essays on fairies and cinema. But mostly I would say about half the essays are on films that don't look like fairy films when you set into them, but then if you think of it in that way, it actually ends up the films end up making more sense. So that's
the components are there.
Yeah.
Somebody has a comment here. If Bigfoot is telepathic, why doesn't he telepathically refer people to important writers to explain his existence?
I don't know.
That's because the nature of this stuff is to drive us forwards.
Yeah, or to drive us insane. One of the two.
Yeah.
The hidden. It sounds like the hidden hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, thinking about certain things that I've gone through, I really think that you kind of have to be brought to. I think the best way to. I'll parrot Anne Strieber and say that this has something to do with death, but also ego death, and also being brought to the threshold and being brought to low points, and the number of people who have gone mad looking into this stuff is pretty impressive, and I've only barely dodged a bullet myself, actually. By no real, in my opinion, fault of my own. I was just interested in this stuff, and then things kind of sort of fall apart a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's here there be dragons, I guess.
I like dragons.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah, I do think a lot of this stuff is meant to ask us questions. It's meant to make us investigate our own reality, our own perceptions more. I mean, I know my experiences with it have always been things that drove me forwards in a positive way. And I think part of that is how you embrace it. Like I've said many times, I think the alien abduction experience is a shamanic awakening that is being hijacked by people who think it's a negative experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they're using things like hypnosis to enforce that archetype. So they're unintentionally doing it, but they are turning what could be a very positive growth experience into something to be terrified of.
Or there might very well be a legitimately negative component to a lot of the stuff.
Some of it,
that's
you learn a lot from negativity. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, that's a very I've been thinking a lot about trauma and tragedy in people's lives lately, and it's such a very Western thing to not want to accept the fact that there is that suffering has value, and that's the old atheistic argument of well, how can God exist if this 7-year-old has brain cancer? And as a parent, it's absolutely heart-wrenching, and I get it. But if you're looking at this from a I won't even say 1,000-foot level, I'll say 1 million foot spiritual level. If you're looking at this from the outside of the galaxy, maybe there really is some sort of karmic value in suffering, some sort of spiritual value in suffering. That
suffering challenges us.
Mm-hmm.
if you're not challenged, you tend to get stagnant.
Yes, that's a very resonant message.
I think the happiest and most content I ever was in my life, I was also the most stagnant. And when that ended, it was one of the worst experiences of my life, and it also propelled me forwards the furthest.
Well, you think about any sort of up and coming artist of any kind who wants to get success, and usually once they get success, that's when their output just really tanks.
Yeah.
And it's alchemy, really, is what it is. It's all about the alchemical process. It's not really about finding the philosopher's stone. It's about the climb up the mountain, not the summit itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that sound like a cat poster now?
It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah. But
you should have that as your personal aphorism there on your wall there, Josh.
Unless, of course, you're tired and driving home, then it's totally about the destination and getting there awake.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, so I'm excited. It's a little bit of a teaser for volume 2 of Where the Footprints End. Because I came to the realization the other day that I've been dealing with this project for longer than my sons have been alive, which is really weird. But we're getting ready to slide into home base here, and I'm really excited.
Tim, they call him Tim.
Yeah.
What is your presentation going to be on at our Strange Realities conference?
I don't know.
Actually, I think Tim prefers to be called Samuel.
What?
Yeah, I just heard that somewhere.
I'm missing that one.
Other days he likes to be called Randy, but I guess you can call him Tim.
Yeah. You can call him Tim.
Either on gifting and the Bigfoot phenomenon, or I'm actually leaning more towards doing something on disappearing evidence.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty nice. Is there a place where those two intersect?
I mean, yeah, in our books, but generally, yeah, I mean, quite possibly, I'm sure I could think of some example where, gifting and disappearing evidence have those Venn diagrams, I'm sure, cross, but, I mean, they would be two separate presentations. It's just a matter of me choosing which one I want to do.
When you talk about disappearing evidence, what, is it all kinds of evidence? Is it all across the board, or is it
it tends to happen throughout the paranormal, but I would be focusing, just because the focus of the book is, Bigfoot phenomena, I would be, focusing on its expression in the Bigfoot phenomenon.
Okay, so we're going to end this thing basically with Bigfoot.
I mean, it's like as you said last year, Adam. It's the epoch of Bigfoot. There's
there he is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, he's
nice. But no, in all seriousness, I feel like it was in like the 90s that you used to see, the gray alien everywhere. That was like the cool iconography.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just Bigfoot everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I was up in the mountains of Georgia at a location where I would not expect to see a lot of Bigfoot paraphernalia, and I totally saw a bunch of Bigfoot bumper stickers and shirts and all sorts of stuff. It's taken over in a big way.
Yep. Well, Josh, you and I were up there, and we were down at the Expedition Bigfoot.
Right.
Not really that long ago, if you really think about it. And then I went back, and I love how you guys, especially you, Tim, like you typify Expedition Bigfoot as like basically a shrine.
That wasn't me. That was me quoting Josh, who was quoting, was it Metcalf?
David Metcalf, yeah. That was Metcalf's observation. Yeah, I gave him credit in the book. But yeah, finish your thought, Adam. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, just like, because there's the whole thing about Bigfoot, the shrine to Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden Bigfoot appears.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had a couple of interactions with the owner of the museum, David Becara, who's a real nice guy, and he it's you know it has it really has all the trappings of a temple. You know, it has sacred relics. It's a place for believers to gather. It's a place for non-believers to be converted. And he put this Bigfoot museum in North Georgia, which is a Bigfoot hotspot. Go fig. So it has all the earmarks that you would expect from a pagan shrine.
I mean, they've even taken Bigfoot poop and put it on display. Like it's even like literally the excrement of this creature. They're like, ooh,
Yeah.
There's like a 2-foot shellacked Bigfoot poop in there, which sounds kind of goofy until you see it, and it's still goofy, but but when you see it, you're like, oh, that is kind of strange. I've never had a continuous 2-foot poop, so
it was much bigger than Abraham Lincoln's poop, which was in the Dye Museum up here.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I did not see that.
Abraham Lincoln poop.
I went there.
It was supposed
to see Abraham Lincoln poop.
It was supposed to be Abraham Lincoln's last poop. At some point, they analyzed it though, and they found Necco wafers in it.
Time travel, Seriah. There you go.
And so they figured it could not, in fact, be Abraham Lincoln's poop because Necco wafers came post Lincoln, not terribly long after Lincoln.
Well, I was about to say if you could analyze Lincoln's poop and analyze Bigfoot's poop, would you come to the same conclusions? I was going to say, would there be a similarity there? Because Lincoln was a rather tall man for his time.
Maybe he was really Bigfoot, but shaved down nicely.
Yes.
He is,
our first Sasquatch president.
He is my third cousin, Abraham Lincoln.
Cool, really.
Third cousin, 3 times removed. Yes, we share a grandparent somewhere way back.
So you are Bigfoot in disguise.
So related to your talk, Josh, has there ever been any mushrooms popping up on Bigfoot's feces?
Oh, I can't say for certain. No, and the number of this is something I look for in the book when I was doing this chapter that this is an excerpt of, more or less, an adapted excerpt of. I was really looking for, Bigfoot appearing in trips, and I didn't really, I don't tell the places, Arrowwood and, the Blue Vault, the usual places where you find trip reports, and scoured them and only found just 1 or 2 things. So that was a little bit disappointing, but it's interesting. There's if you've seen I work another reference to this film in in the second book, and I'm really proud that I was able to do it. If you've ever seen Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny, it's I referenced it in another chapter, but that was what Jack Black sees when he has his mushroom trip, as he sees Bigfoot that he calls Papagenu, and they have a big trippy Bigfoot experience where culminating in a float in the Strawberry River. So, but I've asked around, not just going to those websites. I've actually asked people, I've asked people whom I would think would have heard about this, to not get too specific, and nobody's ever really come into any reports of people seeing like large hairy hominids in their trips. It's not a common thing. Again, I found a handful, but it seems I'm more interested in this case in sort of the mechanism that could possibly be happening, and there are weird buzzes.
What an interesting cross section there. I mean, that's cross pollination between 2 or 3 different things, Josh.
Well, you say that. I'm behind deadline. I'm preparing the presentation, so I know what it needs to be done. I just need to sort of tighten up the.
Yeah, well, you're fine. According to Seriah, we still got 2 months.
Yeah,
right,
2 months.
Seriah?
We're still in July. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's like July 22nd or something like that.
Well, I mean, it was 90 degrees out today. It's got to still be July.
Well, it's kind of funny. I originally was not supposed to be able to do this because I was supposed to have a gig in Washington State.
Yes.
And so, ironically enough, the same thing that made the conference have to go virtual is the same thing that allowed me to be here, because that particular engagement, thankfully, got punted to next year. So,
yeah, we're glad that you're on board with us again this year, Josh, for sure.
It's going to be exciting. Is there going to be a virtual after party? Or
yes,
yeah, we're gonna have a few probably.
Awesome, that sounds great.
You give us some tuba.
Yeah, I'll give you some tuba.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make that happen. Yeah. Well, let me talk to you afterwards. Maybe I can line up no, never mind. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see.
Tuba and banjo, man. No wonder Tim and I forged an alliance in hell. It's like that Far Side cartoon where they open up the outhouse and there's a tuba player and a banjo player sitting in there together, and a bunch of people with pitchforks and torches.
So what we're going to do with that is since everybody's going to be on the private Facebook group that everybody's going to be watching the conference on, I will make a Zoom call while we're schedule a Zoom call while everything's going on, and I'll just post that, and then anybody that wants to join, they can join in, and we'll just have like kind of a big party at the Saturday night, and we're gonna do it on Sunday night too.
That sounds like so much fun. That sounds
like
a lot of fun.
So that we can just what we want to try to do is like kind of try to replicate that feeling of being part of a conference. So just like instead of just like being just tied to just watching the presentations, which are great, but part of the like we had so much fun last year outside and talking to each other, and that's sort of the big part of it. And it's going to be kind of I think it's going to be a little stressful, us putting this thing on. I mean, this is a big thing. We got a lot of people. But in some ways, it may not be as big of a deal as doing it live, because there's so much stuff you got to just like coordinate. I was telling Serfiel that when we restreamed all the presentations from last year, we did that nearly a couple of weeks ago now. When we did that, I was like, man, I missed so much, because I was outside taking care of this thing. I was making sure the pizza got delivered. I was making sure that nobody went over on time, and was keeping my eye on the clock, and putting this thing out and doing this thing. And so I didn't get to see a lot of it, but it was like some really great presentations from last year from you guys, and especially the one that you guys did at the end on where the footprints in. Yeah, that was presentation.
Thank you. I have to admit, I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not live again this year. I mean, for obvious reasons, but also just for the fact that you guys really knocked it out of the park your first year. I think it's the most on time conference that I've ever been to. So
yeah, because I had definitely been to conferences myself where like things did not go on time, and it really. So about a month before, I think I've told this story before, about a month before we went to this thing in Knoxville, and Ray Hernandez spoke at this, right? And they had screwed up the timing so much. They just let people just go on and on and on, and they had messed up the timing that when Ray got up there, and he had like the best presentation of the whole thing. Talking about the free study and about the parallels between alien contact experience and also near-death experience. And he only got like 45 minutes. I think he got cut short. And then they put the guy right after him was this old dude that believed that he was a Martian super soldier and that he was stationed on Mars, and they let that guy talk for like an hour and a half, and I was like, come on, are you serious? You like he was talking about so much. Ray Hernandez was talking about some really important stuff that he really should have gotten so much. He should have had it easily an hour and a half up there just to talk about that. And then they just let this guy just go on and on and on because it was the last one of the day. And it was like everybody was tired. But we were just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, but you're also doing doing the outrageous story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Common denominator.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's and but I've seen it happen time and again where really like great presentations get shortchanged. I know that Tim and I were at a conference where Eric Wargo he had to rush through his presentation, which is something that we both really wanted to see, and I think we kind of both felt a little bit bad, Tim and I, because we had given the presentation before, and it wasn't our fault, to be honest. It was just the whole thing was running behind on the offset. We didn't even start. I think it was like a full hour after presentation.
Yeah, the presentation was exactly as long as we said it was going to be, as we were scheduled for.
Right.
We had started late, and if they had told us before we started, like, "Hey, you guys need to rush,"
we could have,
we're going to split this time between you and Eric, we would have done so. But we weren't told that, and consequently, I don't think he was very happy. When I feel badly about that.
Yeah, still do. Yeah. So anyway, everybody run on time. That's the lesson.
Well, and the really good part about doing it online this time is that for next year, if everything gets back to semi-normal, we can do a hybrid. And so we're learning this now, but then in the future we can have the best of both worlds, and that'll be really cool.
Yeah, you can have a live speaker and then just project a call in. Yeah,
it's one of the weird advantages. Again, COVID's a bad thing, but because of it, it has pushed how we use technology and how we can do things in this situation. And it's not, we'll still have that when COVID lifts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can get someone here in the chat was saying they're in South America, and they can attend because it's virtual.
Right.
So yeah, next year you can do it live in person, so people who want to come out can come out. But you can also be projecting that to people who are in other countries and stuff and can't make it, and charge them a little less for coming on virtually.
That's kind of where we're going. What we're thinking about is that we're going to do kind of a hybrid thing. And what you're talking about, how people are starting to kind of innovate. SIR, where we did it last year, they are now have a guy on staff because people have started doing live streams from SIR. Mm-hmm. So they've got a guy on there now that is doing that just solely and specifically. And so we could actually do the whole thing online, but have a portion of it live. So maybe do 1 day live / online, and then another day just solely online. So
I'm sorry, I guess he's in South Australia, not South America.
South Australia, yeah. So
and SheCon's in the Middle East. So yeah, I mean, it makes it more international. I mean, it's hard for people to travel, across the world if they want to be involved in something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very true. And plus another thing too, guys, having 20 speakers, 21 speakers actually, I never could have done that. I don't think because we had we had 9, I think, or 8 speakers, 9 presentations last year. And that was, having to fly people out and all that kind of stuff. And get the Airbnb for you guys, which we were happy to do. But it's this year we can have more people because I think it's going to be really great. And I'm glad to have all 3 of you guys part of it.
Well, it's an honor to be a part of the lineup. It's pretty stacked. So thank you for having me.
A lot of this really, I don't think would have happened without any of you guys, because Josh and Tim, you guys were part of the first one and agreed to do it and agreed to come to Nashville. and we had a great time with you guys. And then Seriah, like I never would have heard of any of these people without you, man.
The Godfather. The Godfather of that's what the cat's. That's what the cat's for.
There we go.
Normal podcasting.
And Seriah was actually going to come to Nashville. We had actually talked him into it and everything, and then all of a sudden, everything happened. So
And then you had to get COVID in here.
yeah, I know.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah. Of course, you're the one that said that they have it. You had it, so
I did have it. Yes.
Have you confirmed that? 100%.
It's 100% as you can confirm it.
Well, you got the antibody test, Seriah?
No, I got an antibody test and it came up negative.
Okay, so maybe
However,
you just have the Martian flu.
Yeah. Well, I had the exact same symptoms that Tom Hanks had.
So it's you were withdrawing from your adrenochrome, is what you're saying.
Yes. Oh no. Tom Hanks. Be careful. This is going to be on YouTube, Josh. It is.
Yeah, I know.
No.
I was told that the antibody tests are not particularly good if you get them taken too late or too early, or if you don't have a very severe case. And I didn't have a very severe case. It sucked, but it was not like what Tom Hanks was in the hospital.
Right.
I know a couple other people who had the same thing I did. Some of them were exposed to people with COVID. The actual COVID tests are awful. It's worse than flipping a coin. There's a woman, I was reading an article on a woman in Texas who her husband had it. Her son ended up getting it, even though she was the only one he was exposed to. She was a nurse. She got 7 negatives in a row. And then afterwards got the antibody test and had positive antibodies.
Well, then you were telling me about that the other night too.
Yeah,
we were doing Road to the Road Go. Yeah.
The testing is absolutely abysmal. So the antibody tests, you have to get it taken at the right time before your body starts getting rid of the antibodies, because it's sensitive only to a certain number of antibodies.
Well, and the I think it was the president of Tanzania announced that both a goat and a pawpaw had tested positive for COVID. So,
right.
Yeah.
Let's not spend too much time on COVID, guys. I'm so tired of talking about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future. Look forward to everything that we're doing. So, I want to thank you guys for being a part of this tonight, and also serves as a way to familiarize with you what you're doing. Okay, so let's go down the line. Seriah, tell everybody where they can find Where Did the Road Go, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
WhereDidTheRoadGo.com. And you can find me mostly on Facebook if you want to find me. There's links to email me and stuff on the Where Did the Road Go page. I don't know if there's a Facebook link, but you can find me easy on Facebook.
Yes. I mean, there's not too many people named Seriah Azkath out there.
Exactly.
All right,
I think it's just Facebook.com/Azkath, honestly.
Yeah. And Mr. Cutchin.
You can find me at joshuacutchin.com. And there's going to be a bunch of big things coming down the line real soon, I think.
Cool.
Okay. And Mr. Renner.
StrangeFamiliars.com. That's my podcast, and all the contact information for that goes to me.
What's coming up on Strange Familiars?
You think I planned that far ahead? I think this week is another installment of Through the Haunted Forest, meeting another Bigfoot witness on location in Michaud Forest, and then and we'll see what else happens there.
Cool.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Stay here with us. We're going to close this out because this is still a show. So just a reminder, guys, thanks you for listening to the Conspirinormal, and also a reminder, Strange Familiars, StrangeRealitiesConference.com.
Look,
go there, and you can see it in the back. There's a Strange Familiars church. There's too much strange going on here.
Woo.
We are streaming online to 25th, 26th, and 27th. And tickets are available for only $20, and that's for 21 speakers, including these 3 gentlemen that have so kindly joined us tonight.
Woo.
So Patreon is up there. You can join that for $1. And anything that you want to add, Seriah, before we take off?
No, just everyone that you saw or heard on this episode, it just further drives all the different topics that we're going to have. So it's really all over the place, and should be a very, very fun time.
All right, join us next week, guys. When we're going to have like a even bigger show. We'll all spread out throughout the day with the rest of the guys and the guys from the Strange Realities Conference coming up September 25th, 26th, and 27th. StrangeRealitiesConference.com. See you later.
Absolutely. Yep.
If you would like to help the show, please consider becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Conspirinormal or leave a one-time donation at Conspirinormal.com. And please check out our YouTube channel, Conspirinormal Podcast.